Welcome to your reading for September 2025. This is Artemis, Oracle and Tarot, a space for those walking the moonlit path. Seekers looking to explore and integrate the divine masculine in ways that feel authentic, embodied and whole. This work centers on masculinity, but it's not exclusive to men. Masculinity lives in all of us, regardless of our gender, orientation or identity. Many of us carry unconscious, wounded or toxic expressions of masculinity, and this space is here to offer guidance and reflection so we can meet that energy with openness and sincerity. So whether you're male, female, non-binary or something beautifully in between, you are welcome here, and this is exactly where you're meant to be. My name is Adrian, or you can call me Ade, the creator of Artemis Tarot and Artemis Oracle decks, which you'll see today. These decks came about out of my own dark night journey as a gay man who felt spiritually stuck and disconnected from divinity after painful early experiences with religion. I learned that whether something is scientifically real or not is almost besides the point, because if we experience as real, it has power. It can hinder us or it can help. So I chose to change my relationship to spirituality into something that actually helps. Hello Pisces, welcome to your September reading. This is Artemis, Oracle and Tarot, a place for seekers who are walking the moonlight path. I hope that this reading finds you well. Today we'll be doing a short 3-card oracle spread following the kind of traditional format of past, present and future. And then we'll be using those themes to do a slightly longer tarot reading following a different spread, one that I designed, which I'll explain a little bit more when we kind of get up to that part. But let's start by calling in spirit and lighting some incense. So I've got the Nag Champa incense for you today, which is one of my favorites. Very spiritual and kind of introspective, which qualities I tend to associate with Pisces. All right, without any further ado, let's jump into these oracle cards for you. And just a reminder, all of these oracle cards, the ones that come up in your reading today, you can learn more about them by visiting my website, which is artemispalimpsest.com. The link is in the video description. Also check us out on Instagram if you haven't already. That link is also below. And yeah, so you can learn more about the ones that show up today, and also the other remaining archetypes in the 44 card deck. All right, so without further ado, we're going to look for a card representing the past for Pisces. All right, you've pulled this Atlas card here in the reverse. And so Atlas can speak to masculinity as kind of like protector, or sort of like a quiet resolve and perseverance. But in the reverse, it can kind of speak to someone who perhaps feels they need to bear burdens or challenges alone, or kind of like suffering in silence, or perhaps even like bordering on sort of martyrdom, where we assume responsibility for things that no one has, necessarily asked us to help with, and then we kind of can feel a little bit indignant about it. And I'm just going to raise my hand, like I have absolutely done this in the past, like in sort of workplace scenarios, and I think a lot of people who identify as LGBTQ or come from sort of like migrant families, or for whatever reason sort of like have come from a marginalized sort of background, there can be this sense of like needing to perform in order to get acceptance. And the unhealed aspect of that is you start overperforming and over assuming, and we work ourselves to the bone, often kind of in a thankless way, because we're also not letting the system or the people or the bosses kind of know like, oh, this broke down here and I fixed that, and I noticed this and so I did this. Like, we can often assume way more than we need to, and then also not let people know about it. And so we're doing all this work to an almost superhuman level, and it kind of can go unnoticed. And I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't be proactive and that we shouldn't look for ways to improve things, but also if it's not our primary responsibility, we shouldn't take steps to just step in and fix it. We should flag it with the appropriate people and then let them know, oh, look, I thought perhaps this could be done. And if they give us the go ahead, then yeah, do it. But if not, like, you've just solved yourself like stress. Why would you? So yeah. That's my advice here with the Atlas card in the past. Let's jump into your current to see how that develops. All right, we're looking for a current situation here for our Pisces friends. What does Pisces need to know? All right, you've selected the Merlin card here in your current situation. And Merlin speaks to experimentation and failure as a pathway to mastery and also power. And so this came up in another reading this month as well, which is interesting. I think today's day and age, like, we treat mistakes and failure as like such a no-no, like such a taboo. But like, honestly, failure and experimentation is how we learn. It's how we grow. It's how we iterate. And coming from like a design and creative background, like, there's nothing better than failing and failing soon, so that you don't spend too much time going down any particular avenue until you've kind of figured out, what works and what doesn't. And I would suggest that as it relates to, what we've just seen with Atlas in the past, rather than assuming that burden and shouldering it in silence, is testing and different approaches and iterating based on what works for you. So I gave an example already as to what you could do, but there are countless others, and each of us is a unique individual. And so you've got to figure out what feels right for you and what works for you as well. And Merlin in your current situation is saying you're empowered to do that, and also that there is power in doing that. You will feel a greater sense of agency and therefore satisfaction, whether it's work, whether it's play, whether it's creative stuff, whether it's family stuff. I don't know, but that's for you to use your discernment on. Think about what might be challenging you in your life right now, and think about, well, if I was going to do this differently, what are some things that I could try, and then try those things, and then just like go, well, yeah, this had the most result. One of the greatest traps that we can fall into is that old saying of like doing the same thing and expecting different results. Like, if something's not working for you, Pisces, stop it, try something else. I know that you have the deep wells of creativity within you to come up with other approaches. You just need to back yourself in trying them. All right, and looking for a future card now for Pisces. Let's see what the capstone here is. So what does Pisces need to know about what's coming? Yeah, you've picked the Ra card here in the future position. And Ra speaks to illuminative creativity, and it's interesting that I was just talking about creativity, overcoming shadow, and sort of like being a guide. And I think as this relates to like the previous two cards, it's kind of saying there is an active element in working through and bringing light to kind of like the raw material that our unconscious and creative kind of minds bring to us. And I think for some reason I'm getting a sense of like you have lots of that raw material, and now it's just a case of you kind of like shedding light on, you know, what surfaces from your dreams, from your creative work, from your musings, from your daydreams, and like by shining a light on it, kind of deciding a path and then following that path. And that's what Ra is all about. He's about overcoming the shadow, and also you know, he's in a constant dance with it. Like he descends into the underworld every night in order to wrestle kind of like the shadow snake, and then the following day the sun rises again. And so it's kind of like I think for water signs in particular, like we're very familiar with our internal kind of emotional state, but we don't always know how to harness it or what to do with it. And so I think that's where the solar aspect comes in, is it's providing an avenue to find a productive use for some of that material that can otherwise dwell and just become sort of like lingering and problematic over time. And that's what leads to this kind of Atlas energy that's in the reverse over here. All right, let's get into the tarot portion of the reading now. So I'll get the tarot cards out and I'll explain a little bit about how I select the cards first, and then as I'm laying the spread out, I'll go into a little bit of detail about, you know, the spread that I'll be using for you today and what each of the cards kind of signify, and how I kind of came to the spread that we're using as well. So if there's any tarot, you know, enthusiasts in the you know, that are watching, I'd love to hear your own process, especially from Pisceans, because I think you're very in tune with this kind of symbolic sort of work. So yeah, drop in the comments below, you know, any process that you use. I'm always eager to learn from others who, you know, enjoy using the tarot and oracle cards. All right, so the process that I personally use is to use a pendulum, which helps kind of select the cards. And I've got two. I've got a crystal quartz one and a rose quartz one. And based on whether I'm looking for clarity or whether I feel like there's a need for sort of like deeper compassion or loving kindness, I'll kind of pick one or the two. And I think this one here is looking for clarity because, you know, there's a sense of like being stuck, and perhaps even feeling a little bit of a certain way about responsibilities that we feel are kind of like on our shoulders. But that our pathway to power is by finding, you know, what suits us and then how to kind of activate that and sort of bring us into our solar brilliance. And that seems like a clarity thing to me. So I'm going to pick the crystal quartz pendulum, and we're just looking for anti-clockwise circles here. No. Yep. No. No. So for the spread that we're doing today, it's called the Healed Heart spread. We only need 6 cards, so I'll just quickly give these ones a final shuffle and split it into piles of 6, and we'll take it from there. All right, exactly the right amount of cards. All right, crystal quartz. Yep, that looks like it right up front. Yep, thank you. All right, so the Healed Heart spread, as you might guess from the name, it's a a spread that I kind of designed or channeled following some inner child work that I did earlier this year, some shadow work. And it follows like a star shape, which was inspired by the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. And those of you familiar with ritual magic might recognize that name, which is essentially, it's a ritual used by a number of esoteric traditions to identify blockages, energetic blockages within the body, and then kind of release those so that we can achieve a state of regulation. And each of the points of the star represents an element, and then also like a thing to consider as it relates to that particular position. So in the bottom left of the star, we have the earth position, which signifies like what's supporting you or challenging you right now. And that can sometimes be what's supporting and challenging you right now. In the top or the apex of the star, we've got the spirit element, and it represents what your higher self wants you to know. Here on the bottom right, we have the fire position and how others or those external might be viewing you as it relates to the situation or what's challenging you. On the left here, we have the air position, which signifies it's the receptive side of the star, at least it is for me because I'm right-handed. What spirit is asking you to be open to receiving. And then on the right hand, which is the active side, it is, what spirit is suggesting you do, or the tactic that you should use, or the approach that you should take. And then in the middle here, in the soul element, it represents what's in your heart right now. So from here, what I'll do is go through the various positions in the clockwise direction, starting from earth to spirit, because we banish what's here with us on earth to spirit, and then we go around the rest of the star. And I'll give you a bit of a download, and that will be the reading. So without further delay, all right, what's supporting you or challenging you right now? You've picked up the death card here, and I just want to show this one on camera because I think the art is like really, really nice. Now, obviously, like the Grim Reaper is a figure that can instantly inspire kind of like terror. But, in the clouds behind him, like it's a beautiful sunset. There's a stream that's kind of bubbling away by his feet. And this suggests that once we transcend death, there's something beautiful and new and full of potential just beyond him. And in terms of what's supporting you or challenging you right now, I would say that there's a sense of you're ready to move on from something in your life. And there's a little bit of fear or a little bit of attachment still that's kind of keeping you tethered to where you are. But the fact that it's upright here says to me that it's something that you're already consciously wanting to leave behind, and that counts for a lot. It is natural and normal to have a little bit of hesitation as it relates to letting go of old things, whether it's a job that you no longer want to do, whether it's a friend that you've noticed lately every time you spend time with them it leaves you ending up feeling like bad about yourself, or whatever it might be. You've already recognized that this thing is no longer serving you in its current form, and that it either needs to change or it needs to go in order for you to kind of continue forward progression. This is where ritual can actually be really helpful, is in terms of sometimes what the body needs is something that signifies and puts like a full stop on whatever that thing is, or says goodbye to it. So this is why, we have funerals. It's why we have farewells. It's why we celebrate birthdays. Like all of these rituals are ways of signifying to our bodies like something significant has happened or is happening. And it's kind of our way of, I guess, integrating that change in a way that's not just purely intellectual, it's also embodied. And so, yeah, I would say the support is knowing that something needs to change, but then also the challenge is, how do I change it, or how do I let go of this thing that was significant to me at one point? Yeah, Spirit is saying, your higher self is saying that once you let go of that thing, it's going to open up the door to that gateway of that new idea that you've had. And I get the sense that there's an idea, or there's a thought, or there's a, a way of thinking that's recently become sort of like a merge to you. And for whatever reason, like, there's been something that's kind of preventing you from fully kind of stepping into that, whether it's a new job, whether it's a book that you've been wanting to write, whether it's even just like writing in a journal. There's been some blockage to you sort of like accessing that new idea, and it's because there's something still tethering you to the past that isn't fully allowing you to access that. So yeah, Spirit is saying, once you have this ritual of release, you'll find that you're much better able to step into that new idea. As it relates to how others perceive you, in the fire position down here, you've pulled the Eight of Swords in the reverse, and the Eight of Swords speaks to bonds that are psychological in nature, that keep us kind of like trapped, but they tend to be kind of driven by our own thoughts and or insecurities or worries, rather than always necessarily being like actual restraints. And so what I'm talking about here is limiting beliefs around our worth or our ability to do something, because as a child we were told, oh, you're terrible with money, or growing up, we heard that, oh, you're just like your father or just like your mother, and therefore we kind of like take on these behaviors, and we take on these ways of believing about ourselves that are not entirely true. There might be some truth to them, but that doesn't make them entirely true. But the limiting belief that then comes along with that holds us back, and it prevents us from being the true expression of who we really are. The fact that it's in reverse here says to me that you've already done some work around identifying what these limiting beliefs are, and I think it's tied here again to the Death card. These are the limiting beliefs that you need to kind of release to the universe, and that the ritual therefore might be letting go of the parts of you that have stood in front of that wounded child and kind of protected them, and sort of saying, thank you for helping me, stay safe until now, but that story isn't required anymore. That story doesn't serve me anymore. Let's find something else for you to do. And this kind of may sound unusual, like these kinds of dialogues that I'm suggesting you have with yourself. They can feel really unusual and awkward at first, but as we kind of grow and evolve, we start to realize that parts of our identity can be kind of locked in time as a result of trauma, and when they're triggered, we don't behave as the adult that we are today. We behave as that child part that's been triggered, and then the protector part that kind of stands in front of them, that prevents them from feeling the pain. I'm not inventing all of this. I invite you to look at internal family systems psychology to learn a little bit more about it. But yeah, this is how the mind essentially protects itself from trauma, is by kind of like siphoning off these like little traumatized parts, and they stay outside of our awareness unless they're triggered. And then when they are triggered, they come in with like full ferocity. And so this is why you can see a person who's perfectly lucid in one moment, and then something is said and they just like snap, and they become an entirely, you know, different sort of person. It's trauma. That's how it works. Anyway, this is saying for you, you're aware to some degree of these limiting beliefs, and I'm saying that the Death card is kind of signifying a deliberate pause and acknowledgement so that you can release those programs that are no longer serving you. All right, over here on the be open to receiving side, you've got the King of Pentacles in reverse, and the King of Pentacles speaks to someone who knows how the system works, and is very resourceful in terms of, you know, leveraging every element of that system to bring abundance to his kingdom, right? And as it relates to being on the receiving of that kind of energy, I think what Spirit is sort of saying here is the answer is not in the material realm. The answer is within your inner cosmology. It is within your inner mental capacity. And so if you're trying to outwork the problem, if you're trying to outperform the situation, if you're trying to fix it with doing things, physical things like that, may serve as a temporary crux, but it will only ever lead to exhaustion in the long run. And so if you have been trying to fix it, I would suggest that what you should be trying to experiment with in terms of Merlin is not fixing, but rather like accepting, and also like healing. So yeah, over here on the active side, you've pulled the give and take, Six of Pentacles. So the Six of Pentacles speaks to a person who has mastered, you know, give and take, or you know, to and fro. It's kind of like that cosmic balance of abundance. Like when we are open to receiving, and then we also let kind of abundance flow through us, and then like on give to others, you know, we become a channel rather than a blockage, and Spirit loves that. And what I'm getting a sense of here is like you've been doing a lot of giving, you've been doing a lot of doing, but you haven't necessarily been open up to a lot of receiving, and so you've become a bit of there's no balance there, right? You're putting out a lot and then you're not receiving, and so that's leaving you in a place of deficit, and that can feel like sort of being bound up. All right, what's in your heart right now? Yeah. So the Chariot speaks to when our minds, like our thoughts and visions are aligned with our feelings and emotions. You know, that creates a sense of forward momentum that is really difficult to kind of hold. And what I'm getting a sense of here is that, you know, your thoughts are clear, you know exactly what you want, but your feelings are, for whatever reason, not caught up yet. And that's probably because like an inner child or a part of you is sensing something about this situation that feels like danger because it seems similar to something that's hurt you in the past, but it's actually just an echo of previous kind of wounding. It's not actually another situation that can wound you, or you know, you're better positioned now to protect yourself from wounding because you've learned from you know, the past, and sort of like you have that inner warrior within you that can kind of stand up for yourself and kind of protect yourself in the face of challenges. So I think the overall summary for you here, Pisces, is to spend some time introspecting, identifying those parts that, or those beliefs that no longer serve you, and then stepping into a deliberate act of release so that your chariot can be empowered to charge forward. All right, that is it for your reading. I hope that you got something from this, and I look forward to seeing you back here next month. Take care. Well, that's all I've got for you today. So let that settle and rest and relax through it. Not everything needs to be understood at once. All of the cards that were used today, the Artemis Tarot and Artemis Oracle cards, were designed and created by me. You can find them on my website at www.artemispalimpsest.com. That link's below in the description. And on the site, you can explore the 44 Divine Masculine archetype profiles that comprise the deck, as well as find links to buy them. So do inquire about a one-on-one personal reading if you'd like to go deeper. And also keep an eye out for videos starting this week. I'll be doing one deep dive archetype video each week where I'll explore the symbolism, art, and creative process behind developing these. If this reading resonated, please like, comment, subscribe, or share it with someone who might need it. It really helps this work find the people it's meant to serve. This is Artemis, Oracle and Tarot. Divine what can't be seen by day, and behold with new perspective that which stalked in the night. I will see you back here next month. You've been watching Artemis, Oracle and Tarot, a sacred space for healing for those on the moonlit path. Join us here on YouTube for monthly tarot readings by astrology sign and deep dives into the imagery and symbolism used in the making of our unique Artemis, Oracle and Tarot decks. If having a space to work through the unpleasant but necessary parts of adulting sounds good to you, like and subscribe here on YouTube and follow us on Instagram so you never miss a beat. All links are in the description below.